Ready?
Right.
What's up, guys? My name is Armani Chaudhary. You also know me as ArmaniTalks. I help you level up your 5 mighty soft skills: public speaking, storytelling, social dynamics, emotional intelligence, creativity. 5 soft skills that will change your life forever and skyrocket your confidence along the way. What's up, my friend?
Man, I don't know if I can live up to that right there.
Yeah.
Man, that was good.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Shelomo Solson. I'm the founder and president for Purpose Creates Impact. I help you feel more motivated, confident, purpose-oriented, so you can leave the impact you have always dreamed of.
All right, I would say you lived up to the expectations. No, but for those of you who don't know both of our relationships, we have actually known each other for a very, very long time.
Well, like 9 years? Almost 9 years?
9 years or so.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing. When I first met Shelomo, he was one.
Don't you dare!
I'm not gonna say any embarrassing stories yet. But overall, Shelomo was 100% different, like now compared to what he was back then. And this whole transition that you've made, and I'm sure you have a lot of.
I wouldn't say just me. I mean, I think both of us had a pretty good transition over the last few years, especially in the last 3 to 4 years.
That's true. So you can't be telling embarrassing stories of me. But ultimately, the biggest part of today's episode is about confidence. It's basically about our journey from where we came to where we are now. And I just want you to share your story first, because I mean it has been huge. And I do want people from my audience to understand that people aren't born confident. They are exercised into it. So what about you go off and start first?
Wow, save the best for last, right?
Yeah, you know.
So definitely right. Just like you could pick up any type of skill, whether athletics, reading, writing, confidence can be worked on. Mm-hmm. When I was born, people saw me as this shy kid that never talked. English wasn't my first language. I was born in an Indian, Pakistani, Jewish household. Marathi was my first language. I went to speech ESOL class for 7-8 years. I couldn't pass the reading assessment. And during social situations in middle and high school, I would never speak because I remember whenever I would speak, people would laugh at me. Not laugh at my jokes, but actually laugh at me.
Those are the worst.
And that shut down my confidence. So when I went to college, I wanted to become more social, which is why, by the way, we're fraternity brothers, which is why I joined Sigma Beta Rho. And I remember when I joined, I gave my first speech in front of everyone. The first 10-15 seconds, people laughed at me because I had braces.
Yeah.
People couldn't understand me. I had a slight accent, and that wasn't a good start to my freshman year, and that blew my confidence away. And so the years went by. I became a little bit more confident. I would even ask some of my line brothers and friends, how do I talk to people in social settings? And people would just give me advice, and I kind of had to teach myself. When I graduated in 2014, that's when my confidence skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to become a speaker. I think within the last 6 years, I didn't believe I can do it. And so in 2014, I went ahead and did door-to-door sales for about 2 to 3 months. I did that continuously to teach myself sales, to learn that work ethic. Then I joined my sister and brother-in-law's startup. Back then it was called LeapDoctor.com.
Okay.
And I told my brother-in-law, Ashok, I said, let's join Toastmasters. This is really going to help with our business. It's really going to help with our public speaking, something we need for our business. Joined back in October 2014. There's a table topic.
Those are very daunting at first.
Failed miserably.
Uh-huh.
My confidence started to shoot up. Every speech I was competing in, you know how every week you do a speech and people would vote for the best speaker. I would never win. I would never win table topic. And so I always thought to myself, is it me? Maybe I'm not cut out to be a speaker. My confidence shot up in November of 2014. I remember I took are you familiar with Dale Carnegie?
Yes, one of his books.
He's not just an author, but he has programs all around the world. My company invested in me to do a sales training program. Just like Toastmasters, they had weekly competition. It was a 6-week program. And every week they would vote for the best presenter. Every week I would lose. But on a 6th week, there was a presentation champion. This was the final champion for Dale Carnegie sales. There was about 12 other people in that program. I was the youngest one in that class. Everyone else had much more experience than me. And I told myself, I'm going to win this. I don't care what it's going to take. I'm going to be the sales champion at the Dale Carnegie program for that class.
Okay.
And guess what?
You lost?
No, I won that Dale Carnegie sales champion. It was November 2014 was the month my confidence skyrocketed, because that was the first time I set out to achieve something and I achieved it.
That's amazing.
And then you know what else happened? I joined the Toastmasters competition. This was a speech competition. I won the club. I won the area. I won the division. And I went up all the way to the district level, one away from the international speech competition.
Well, that, just to take a quick pause, that's amazing, because I've done speech competitions myself for Toastmasters, and just making it past the club level in itself is difficult, because I feel like at that first stage, a lot of people are really hungry.
Yes.
They want to prove themselves, they want to get to that next level. Now, when you get to that next level, you're attracting more speakers that are hungry, and then you're going up another level.
Yeah.
So you went up 4 levels or so?
Club, area, division. I won 3 competitions and went up to the district. Yes, I was one away from going to Las Vegas, which was tough competition. It was tough competition, but
that's amazing.
I remember your first Toastmasters meeting when I brought you in.
The first embarrassing story of the day, folks.
Was it October 2015? 2015 or 2016?
It was 2015, or 2015 or somewhere around that time.
2015? Yeah, 2015. Your first table topic. And one of the advanced speakers in that club told me, Shelomo, your friend Arman has a lot of work to do.
A lot of work, yeah.
And the rest is history, right? I want to hear about you.
Well, it's funny that you left it at that, because that's one of my personal defining moments in my public speaking journey. Just to rewind it a few years back, my story is very similar to yours in the fact that when I moved from Bangladesh to the United States of America, I wasn't speaking English that well. I had a very, very strong accent. And I don't want to mimic it or anything, but let's just say it was really strong.
Can we hear your sample?
It was for some strange reason. I would just stretch out my words a lot. So I'd be like, hello, how are you doing? I have no clue why, but that's...
My name is Arman.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, I remember the first day I came into class and people asked me to introduce myself, and I did. And I kid you not, they started cracking on me non-freaking stop. And this was funny because beforehand in Bangladesh, I was always this kid talking away, getting in trouble and everything. And once I came to the US, my personality has shifted. I became this very shy guy, very quiet and very self-conscious about the way I sounded. And I went on years and years like this, being this very shy, introverted kid. While on the other hand, my brother was the exact opposite. He was like this very talkative person. So it brought more light onto me for being so quiet. Now, by the beginning of college, I was like, listen, I need to do something about this. I need to stop being so freaking unconfident. And around that time, I did the fraternity.
That's where I met you.
That's where we officially met. And afterwards, I decided that if I could conquer the number one fear in the world, like if I could conquer public speaking, then I had to become confident. And I still remember it like it was yesterday, where I first got called on stage at USF when Toastmasters came to USF, and I couldn't say one single word. And then I remember I just quit for a few months, and then it was you who was like, "Yo, Arman, come back, just come back one more time." And when I came back again, this is when the whole the awful speech went, where they were like, "Oh, you have a lot of work to do." And just by the way, folks, the reason they said I had a lot of work to do was because I said a filler word 30 times in a 2-minute speech. Was that accurate? 30 times?
No, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And after that point, my confidence was tarnished. I mean, I thought I was never going to be this public speaker. I really thought my journey was done, and I thought my fate was sealed. Until, I went a few more weeks, a few more months, and we came to pass again, and you said, "Hey, just give it one more try. If it doesn't work out this time, then you can think about, doing whatever." But this time when I went back, I had already hit rock bottom. I had already done possibly one of the worst 2 things you could have done in Toastmasters thus far. Third time had to be a charm, right?
Yeah.
And this time, I did the whole table topics.
And you're really good at table topics.
Yeah, so that's the beauty. Like this time when I did the whole table topics, it was different.
And didn't you win a few ribbons?
I won that particular ribbon, and that's when I figured out, whoa, all those past failures that I had just got erased at this moment, because without those failures, I don't know if I would have had that opportunity to win that ribbon. So just to segue now, since both of our stories are out there in the public, we have one major pattern. It's somehow where we turn multiple losses into an eventual win. Would you say that's like a big part of confidence?
Yes, confidence to me is you're not born confident. You have to fail a certain amount of times to get that skill level everyone wants. Because both of us were in college.
Right.
I don't know about you, but anytime we had a speech in the fraternity, and I would avoid speaking.
Oh my God, those were the worst. I used to get so nervous too.
And I remember one of the brothers told me, "Why are you avoiding it? You should conquer it." And at that time, I didn't know. I told myself I would never be a good speaker. And I finally understood what he meant. You have to give bad speeches.
You have to, in the beginning stages especially.
And that doesn't just work with public speaking. It works with anything you're trying to do. That rapper NF, I think he's Eminem's stepbrother. 5 years ago, he gave a concert to 30 people. Now he has millions and millions of views on YouTube. So just like public speaking, like music or anything else you have to do or need to get good at, you have to put yourself out there and run that risk of looking bad. But you have to think to yourself, I don't care what anyone else thinks of me, and I know this is a long-term journey, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to conquer my fear and become great at public speaking, become great at rapping, become great at crafting. Whatever your skill you're trying to achieve, fail.
Yeah, and it's funny because I talk about this on my Twitter page a lot, but I feel like when you hear the term fail, you actually get a very negative perception of it. And just to go a little bit deeper into why that is,
we're brown, that's why.
We're brown. For us, a B is a D, a C is a... Anything that's not an A is an F.
Anything that's failing is like, I'm going to beat you up.
No, but think about it. When we were in school, what did we get rewarded on? How hard we studied for the exam? or the final result?
The final result.
And when that keeps on happening to us, especially as we're growing up, one thing that I noticed is that it starts reconditioning us in a very negative way towards failures. So when we're, in the real world and we put in a lot of effort, we practice for this speech and we do bad, instead of thinking of it as, this was a pretty unique experience that a lot of other people aren't trying. They're going home, munching on Netflix all day, and, all that stuff. We're doing it, or we're actually putting ourselves out there. But no, in the beginning stages, I was like, oh, this is a failure. Oh, I said a lot of filler words, that's a fail. But that's why I think that is. I feel like we have the wrong idea of what failure really means.
So let me ask you, what was that turning point that went from, hey, I hate failure, I don't like failing, to failure is actually good? It's good for my success. What was that turning point in your life? So
there were two turning points. One was the whole public speaking thing, where those multiple failures eventually led me to winning table topics, a speech in the club level and everything. But the second part was when I started ArmaniTalks. And I realized when I was talking about my wins in life, people liked it, don't get me wrong. But when I would talk about my failures in life, people loved it. And the reason why is because it allowed someone else to relate. Someone else was able to be like, whoa, I'm not the only one going through this. And at that point, I realized that it's the failures that you can utilize to teach someone. Because at the end of the day, think about it. Whenever we're learning something, what is it really? It's about us failing a lot and then getting rid of what doesn't work to find out what works. How often have you actually found out what worked in the first try?
Rarely.
Yeah.
I can't even think of the last time.
Yeah. So, for both of us, what was that one moment where you realized failing isn't that bad?
Let's see. After I joined my sister and brother-in-law startup, it's almost, part-time we've been doing it for 9 years, full-time for me, almost 5 years. And that 5 years has just been trial and error. When you first start a business, you think, I'm going to succeed. This is going to be this multi-billion-dollar business. I'm going to be rich within the next 5 years, just like Mark Zuckerberg. But no, that's not the case. Okay, so we had multiple projects going on. We had the Leap Doctor, and then after Leap Doctor, we came to a point where we told ourselves, is this right for us? After maybe about a week of kind of just being down about it, we started exploring different projects. We had a calendar system. We had a networking app, which I was in charge of. We had a video game. We had a medical conference finder. Now it's Leap Caller, which is a sales platform. And so we started exploring different projects, and I can't remember exactly when it was, maybe within the last year. It was like ride or die. It's, hey, failing is just part of the process. It's not something that's bad. Everyone fails. It's like a video. One of my mentors told me, it's like a video game. If when you're playing a video game, you don't get frustrated at yourself that something's not working. You said, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to win. That's how life should be. And it becomes much better when you actually win after failing all those times in the video game. Yeah, and now I remember I was not good at sales. I'm still learning how to be better at sales, but I'm becoming much better at it after doing it so many times. People give up after the first year or after a few tries, but it really takes sometimes years and years and years of trying to perfect your craft into really learning that skill. It's kind of like going to the gym. With your sales experience, just picture the ultimate salesman as a bodybuilder.
they don't just get that perfect body overnight. They get it after doing their reps. Even with the salesperson, I mean, their reps are sort of the fails, getting turned down, getting told to, stop calling me.
Yeah, and you should see our journey as a company. When we first started, we outsourced our IT team. It took us about 2 years to even freaking build a website, and we were frustrated. Now we have an internal IT team. At one point, we had a team of 15 software engineers. We have a freaking product. Now we're a technology company that builds new updates every single week. It goes fast. That wouldn't have happened if we would have quit.
That's crazy, because it's funny, when you were first getting into that organization, I remember you used to bring in the shirts and everything, and now it really does seem like the organization is growing before
we went from a physician recruitment company to now a technology company.
And that's what the biggest thing about confidence is. It's not just the set spot that, okay, I'm confident. It's something that you're just fine-tuning every single day. It's kind of like LeBron James. We know LeBron's an amazing basketball player, but do you think he's ever like, all right, I figured out basketball, I never have to practice anymore? No, he's always fine-tuning his skills and getting better. And that's exactly what confidence is. It's just something that you're getting better at day in and day out. That's why I adopted the level up mentality. And the level up mentality just simplifies life. Basically make today better than yesterday. By doing that, you will eventually reach confidence.
Do you think confidence starts with the mind?
It absolutely starts with the mind, because the thing is, you need to get your priorities straight, and the only way you can get your priorities straight is through your mind. Because when you're one of those people that are competing with all these people, imagine if I first started public speaking and I saw you going up the districts in the Toastmasters competition, and I'm like, why am I not there yet? It's because you're at a different level than me. And if I'm competing with you, if my 2-week self is competing with your 2-year self, then my mind isn't right. So I'm automatically setting myself up to fail, but fail for the worse, not in a good way like we were just talking about. But yeah, it starts with the mind. Everything starts with the mind at the end of the day.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to accomplish that. I was listening to a podcast of Michael Phelps and Tony Robbins earlier today. It just came out. And Michael Phelps, phenomenal story. He was talking about how his coach engraved in his mind saying, I can't, is not in the vocabulary. Because as soon as you start believing I can't, you've already lost.
100% true.
You've already, why are you doing this in the first place if you're saying I can't?
And it's always about these little words that you use, because I remember a few years ago I was starting this e-commerce business, and I kept saying, if my business becomes successful, then I'll be so happy. And I kept using the word if. And eventually, I forgot where I read this, but someone said, stop saying if, say will. I will have a successful business. And when I made that little mental reframe, the whole game changed. Eventually, the business ended up being successful and it ended up being profitable. But it literally started with making a small mental tweak. So with you, where if someone's saying that they can't from the get-go, then you won't. It really is that simple.
Yeah, to me, it's more like I am.
I have to.
I'm like, not I will, I am. You live in the present, and to me, I've already made up in my mind what I'm going to be. It's already done. I just haven't figured out how to do it. And it's the power of visualization. And Jim Carrey was on the Oprah show a long time ago, and he wrote himself a check for, I think, $10 million. He stored it in his wallet, and it crumbled. And he said he was going to be worth $10 million within the next 5-7 years. I can't remember the exact time frame. But he signed a contract for Dumb and Dumber for $10 million right before the expiration date.
That's crazy.
And that's the power of visualizing success.
It's basically, you have to win twice before you win once. Once in your mind, and then you win it in real life. And visualization is so important. I feel like my old self especially, and I don't know if you went through this stage, but I thought visualization was just a fancy term for daydreaming. I genuinely thought that. But if you think about it, visualization is structured daydreaming. You're seeing something that's never been seen before. And that's why I want to ask you something very important. How important would you say is creativity in this whole game of confidence?
Creativity. I would say creativity is super important. Not sure about with confidence, but in order to solve problems in business, you need to become creative. In order to solve problems in your own life, you need to be creative. I guess it kind of ties in with confidence, because as soon as you're being more creative on how to solve these different problems, you're trying out different things, and the ones that do work end up sticking, which ends up building your confidence in the long run.
That's true, because the amount of problems that you solve is the amount of value that you create for yourself
and other people.
And for other people. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. When you're basically trying to become the best version of yourself and you create that value, now everything that you touch turns into gold. That's why I think a true confidence is a selfish to selfless journey. You have to be selfish in the first stage, because if you're trying to give back and you don't have anything to give back, what's going to happen? You're just going to give subpar quality.
Empty-handed.
Yeah, it's like you becoming a Toastmasters mentor before ever giving a speech. You're trying to be selfless. You have the good heart, but you're not going to help me, another guy that had speech anxiety.
Well, I mean, that kind of brings up the point, when people make a lot of money and people call them selfish. But I heard USF, University of South Florida president, Judy Gunshaft, she said, I can't remember the exact ages, but at one point it's learning, then earning, then giving back.
I like that.
So you learn as much as possible, then you earn, and then you give back what you have. Do you think confidence? So confidence, we both agree that it starts in the mind. But is confidence also an external factor as well?
It is. And this is something that I talk about a lot with my personal brand. Social dynamics is a big part in you growing as a person, because human beings are social creatures to the core. And if you are becoming this amazing person and you're just hoarding all these skill sets to yourself, then you're basically setting this imaginary ceiling on your head. Like, for example, with you, if you became this amazing public speaker and you never gave back, which you currently do a lot. I mean, I spoke at one of your keynote, as a keynote speaker for one of the graduation ceremonies you threw. But just imagine that. Imagine you have all these skill sets and you're keeping it to yourself. You're just capping out your confidence, which is why confidence is about giving back and having that external power as well.
Well, let me ask you another question. We all have flaws. What does confidence have to do with your flaws?
Confidence has a lot to do with our flaws, as in you are basically having to accept the good and the bad of you. And that's not something that we tend to want to do. We typically want to highlight the good, and we want to act like the flaws really don't exist. But true confidence isn't about acting like the flaws don't exist. It's about saying, okay, I have these flaws, I acknowledge it, and I'll do something about it.
That's so true. Now I'm going to give you not side story, but reverse advice. When I first started Toastmasters, so English wasn't my first language. I'm not really grammatically correct. I sometimes don't pronounce my words. I have run-on sentences like ands, so's. In the beginning, everyone used to tell me, Shelomo, why don't you, if you want to become a professional speaker, why don't you go to speech therapy? And for the longest time, I believed that. And I recently hired a mentor and coach. He spoke in 15 different countries. He mentored me for about 6 months. And I told him about that. He said, Shelomo, you don't need to go to speech therapy. You need to accept who you are as a brand, as a person, as a speaker, and still go out there. Because people are not going to listen to you or not going to listen to you because you have bad grammar. People are going to listen to you because of your story, your message, and who you are as a person. They want to see someone that they could connect to. And so what if you have bad grammar sometimes, or people can't understand you, or you have run-on sentences? It's okay. That's who you are as a person.
100% agree. You know what's really funny?
What?
From every speech that I've won for Toastmasters and that you've won, or the speeches where we had little grammar slip-ups, we said we said like, we said so, and all that kind of stuff made me understand one thing. Humans as a whole, they don't really like those public speakers that talk like this, talk like a robot. They like the public speakers that are human. Humans like to see flaws. They don't like the whole, everything is perfect, I have everything figured out sort of persona. Now, I'm not telling you, get on stage and start, don't do that. But I just want you to understand that flaws aren't that bad on the stage. When you keep trying to hide them, you tend to make them more. Just understand that when you do make some, you'll still be well off. You'll still have a successful speech.
I would say the most important part of being a speaker is your message and your content.
100%.
If you don't have that, I don't care how great of a speaker you are, you're not going to make it.
You're not going to make it. And would you say enthusiasm plays a huge deal in public speaking? Like, you actually have to care about what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
If you don't, I've heard some of the greatest speakers that never made it as a speaker.
Why do you think that is?
Because becoming a successful public speaker has nothing to do with how you're portraying your speech. It's, you see people like Gary Vaynerchuk give a speech that's, in Toastmasters, he'll be criticized up the wazoo, cursing after cursing after cursing.
The grammarians have on.
Yeah, and then you would see who's the Alibaba co-founder? Jack Ma. When I listen to Jack Ma, I listen to him. When Elon Musk talks, he's one of the worst speakers ever, but I listen to him. Becoming a professional speaker, you can be a good speaker, you can be a horrible speaker, but you have to have something valuable to share, and you have to create a success in some type of way in sharing that with other people.
Easily. I mean, that's why.
But then you see Obama, he's a phenomenal speaker, and I love listening to him. So to me, it really doesn't matter. It helps being a great speaker, but I've seen phenomenal speakers that does everything right that I don't listen to, because to me, in my mind, they're just preaching, and they haven't accomplished what they're preaching about.
100%. Because authenticity, that sells at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And when you're getting on that stage, you want to basically pretend like the audience is your friend and you're having individual conversations with people. I think what really paralyzes a lot of people is they see this herd of eyeballs looking at them. And when they do see that, basically their authentic self just takes a back burner. Now it's just a robot face going on.
How would you get over that?
Practice, because I remember personally for me, with my whole ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, I have my first few speeches on Toastmasters up there, and my first few speeches, my face is like this the whole time, like the robot face, and it wasn't because I wasn't interested in the story that I was saying, it was just because I was nervous, and that's normal. Any new public speaker, they're going to be a little bit nervous when they're getting out on the stage. But with practice, eventually those nerves start melting away.
Absolutely. Didn't your followers have some questions for us?
They did.
Let's
there were a bunch of questions, but I chose 4 that really stuck out, and I thought we can take our, both of our insights into these questions.
Yeah.
So the first question: how do you keep up your confidence for a long process which takes years to yield results? You want to start off with this one?
That's a deep question. And can you repeat it? This is like a table topic, right? I'm practicing my table topic.
Yep. How do you keep up your confidence for a long process which takes years to yield results?
This is tough because you kind of have to trick your mind into believing that you're going to do whatever it takes. So failing is not an option. It starts in the mind because I have a YouTube channel. I started it about 15 months ago, and I haven't seen results up until the last couple months. The first 16 months, I think I had around 100 or so subscribers. And in the past, 4 or 5 months, I hit another 100. And I'm continuously growing.
It's been growing.
It starts in the mind. It just really does. I mean, it sounds like so simple advice, but if I like to think of it, okay, a 3-year journey. When you start something, don't think of it in the next 6 months. Think of it, I'm going to stick to this for the next 3 years of my life. When you think of it that way, then you relieve some pressure off of you to succeed right away. Then okay, my YouTube channel I'm going to have for the next 3 years, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. If I fail at it, okay, on to the next thing. But if I say my YouTube channel, I need to get big in the next 6 months, all that pressure is there now. So think long term and not short term.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would add a very similar answer. I always say have the end goal in mind, but focus on the day by day.
Yes.
So for me...
That's what I meant to say, but you said it in a much simpler.
Well, you went first. That's why I was able to clarify everything. But for me, I want to one day win the Toastmasters competition, the international one. That's my end goal in terms of public speaking. But how am I going to get there? Am I going to always be asking, why am I not there already? No, it's by me making each speech the best that it could be. So what I would recommend is you have that end goal in mind. You have that North Star that you're working towards, but take it day by day. Don't say, oh, well, how long, it's going to take years and years, because it will. But if you focus on it day by day, you won't even notice that. Instead of thinking how much farther you have left to go, you're going to start thinking, whoa, look how far I've come. And when you can make that mental transition, then the whole process becomes much more fun.
Because when you think about the future too much, you start getting anxiety.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. We've all experienced it. I'm not sure if you have. I've definitely experienced it. Where you think too much about the future, you're not living in the present.
Yep. No.
Think about the future, plan for the future, but live in the present.
Live in the present. 100%. Couldn't agree more. So the second question, I'm short, very height conscious. In my mind, already said that no one likes... My mind already says that no one likes a short guy. That's what I think he meant to say. Many girls already made that statement. So that even made me more living in hermit life. So
can I just add in?
Go ahead.
Have you seen Kevin Hart? David John? Yeah. I mean, these are all short people.
These are short people.
I'm pretty short. I'm 5'7". I mean, 5'7" is average, but I mean...
5'7", okay. Okay, let's assume that this... the person who asked this question is 5'2".
Okay.
What's your advice for a guy like him who genuinely thinks that girls don't like short people, and that's causing him to destruct his self-esteem in the process?
So... My mom is taller than my dad.
Is she?
Yeah, by an inch or two. I know in all his pictures he tiptoes or where he's very thick. He goes to kind of. It's all about confidence in reality. Okay, you're trying too much to attract someone that doesn't like you. Be yourself, be as confident as possible, and the people who are meant to like you will like you. That's the end of the game. You can't attract everyone. You can't have everyone like you. The only thing you can control is your mindset and your ability to produce what you're trying to produce. You work on yourself, and the right people who like you for your height and doesn't care about that will come in your life.
100%. And it's funny because when you have a scarcity mindset towards people, what happens is criticisms sound so much louder. But when you understand that there are 7 billion plus people in this world, that's when you don't really care about opinions too much. I mean, for example, Shelomo just mentioned Kevin Hart. What was the other guy's name?
Damon John. I mean, he looks short. I'm not sure if he's short, but I mean, he looks pretty short.
Yeah, so there's two people that are showing you that short people do get love as well. So what I want you to understand is
let me bring you another example. Have you heard of Nick Vujicic?
I have not.
The guy with no arms and no legs. He's a successful speaker, has a beautiful wife, has 2 kids. He's a perfect example. Nick Vujicic, look him up.
Nick Vujicic.
And
okay.
I listen to his stuff. He's a powerful speaker. People look up to him, and his wife is beautiful. He has a beautiful, loving wife, a beautiful, loving family, and he has confidence.
No, that's amazing. So what both of us are trying to say is focus on the people that like you and get them to love you. Don't try to get people that hate you to like you. That's a wasted effort, and that's not something you should do in the social dynamics world. So if you are feeling self-conscious right now, understand that there are people that basically went through what you went through and was able to come out on top. So can you. Okay, so I feel bad that
I love it. I love it.
So I feel bad that I'm asking you the questions. You're basically
How about let me
you ask me. Let's do a little table topics right now.
Okay. The biggest thing that is holding me back is probably my own emotions. It comes out internally in the form of self-consciousness, self-sabotage, caring what others think, and procrastination. How would you control that on a daily basis, since it messes with my confidence in a big way? That's a good question.
That's a very powerful question too. So as human beings, when we are born into this planet, we are like this, very, very chaotic creatures. And as we're growing up, a lot of people just stay like this.
Yeah.
But our goal is to get to this. And notice I'm not just doing this. You're not stagnant. You need a little bit of emotion to make you powerful, to really show that you are a human, but you don't want to let your emotions control you. So how do you get from this to this? From like my experience, it's through a routine and the discipline to execute that routine. And when you start doing that, you start working on your self-control skills. And when you start working on your self-control skills, you allow your mind to harmonize with your emotions. You start, because let's be honest, we've had those gym routines where we're like, oh, we're going to go on this diet, we're not going to cheat whatsoever.
The keto diet.
Yeah, and the emotions are getting the best of us. And what is it that tames those emotions? Our mindset. And when you can get your mindset and your emotions in harmony, that's when you reach confidence. So for me right now, I mean, I wouldn't really focus on the self-consciousness and caring about what others think. Rather focus on the discipline to execute your routine. And if you keep on doing that, you start working with purpose for your life. And you start getting so invested in this routine where other people's opinions and everything, it just becomes in the back burner. What would you say?
Oh my God, you basically said my answer. I would say have a morning ritual, have a night ritual, have goals in mind, and biggest thing, meditate. I've been meditating huge. The past, I would say 3 weeks, and it helps because anytime you start, self-sabotage and caring what other people think of you, that's all developed here. You're thinking too much about things that are not even true. I guarantee you that those people don't even think about you the way you're thinking about how they're thinking about you. I guarantee you, like 99% of the time, if you're thinking about, oh, what's Arman going to think about me? I guarantee you Arman doesn't even care.
They don't.
Most of the time. He might mention something and that's going to throw you off, and then you're going to think about it for like 2-3 days. It's going to ruin your day. When things like that, when you start having imbalance, sit down, quiet room, or put some meditation music and meditate for 5 to 10 minutes so you could feel centered.
100%. And just the last thing to add on, people could barely really control their opinions of themselves. I mean, think about it. How many people do you know that have very low self-worth? A lot of people. So if people can't control the opinions of themselves, how do you expect you to control their opinions of you?
Yeah.
It's just a fool's wish. So what I would recommend is what Shelomo and I basically said: have a routine. Make sure you incorporate meditation, journaling. I think journaling is important. Gratefulness into that routine.
Gratitude.
And I guarantee you, your mindset will change towards what it is now to something much more stable.
And people will always have something to say. That doesn't mean you shun them out of your life, because people will always have opinions of you.
And we were just talking about this last week, where you had this, probably your most popular YouTube video yet, and there was
In the first 24 hours,
yeah, and there was one comment that was like, well, the music is too harsh. But imagine the 400 people that liked it versus the one person that didn't.
Yeah.
Where are you going to place your focus?
Yeah, I think he said this guy is disoriented, or I forgot what
Everyone
he said.
has an opinion.
But I mean, it bugged me for maybe about 30 minutes, and I just
And you move on with your life.
move on. Okay, last question, right? Okay. Don't know if I'm supposed to respond here or not, but I'd love to know your take on someone who has antisocial behaviors and also has substance abuse problems, breaking the cycle, learning to socialize, and getting confidence for the first time because spent teenage through young adulthood being insecure and self-medicating.
That again
So
is another,
basically drinking to socialize.
Yeah, and that's another powerful question, because 3 weeks ago I was hanging out with one of my buddies, and this was probably the third time with our interaction where not only had he gotten drunk, but he had gotten super sloppy. He kind of threw up, got us kicked out, like that whole story. And I remember I was getting really angry at him, and I was like, why is he so inconsiderate? Well, the next day I want to talk to him just to make sure if everything's okay in his personal life, and unfortunately it wasn't. He's someone that has a strong level of social anxiety, and drinking helps him get out of his head and into the present moment. The only problem is that he's becoming reliant on alcohol. So the first way to solve this issue that you have right now is to understand that you can't really shame yourself yet, because there are a lot of other people going through this. Okay, that's number one. And notice I said yet. Because once you understand that other people are going through this, now it's time for you to shame yourself, because it helps you spark change. A lot of the biggest changes I've had in my life was born through embarrassment. I mean, the story that we said beforehand. So just view embarrassment as a tool to say, hey, you don't need this. Why would you even need this? And keep challenging yourself. Start off a very, very small goal. Just try to interact with one person in a sober situation. Go out and grab dinner with them. Then invite 2 people and keep working your way up. If you're too self-conscious to, go into the club with the whole group, I recommend starting small. But you leverage this emotion to help you. Don't let it destruct you, but build it.
I love this question. You know why? Because I am the perfect example to this question.
Are you?
In college, I did get drunk quite a bit. Not because I wanted to get drunk. It's because going to these parties, I had a huge social anxiety. People never knew about this, but I would use alcohol as an excuse to socialize. And I stopped doing that. And now I go to tons of networking events every single week. I go to at least 2 to 3 a week, sometimes 7 or 8. And I remember going to this one networking event. And usually evening networking events, there's alcohol involved. I went with someone, and that person went straight to the bar to get a drink, scope out the crowd, then see an opportunity to approach people. I didn't even look at the bar. I went straight into talking to people. I call this the 3-second rule. You walk in, find a group of people, bam, talk to them. So it kind of relieves that social anxiety. Give people high fives, say hello, look for the people that you know, and then kind of get that rhythm going. It's okay to have a drink, but don't be reliant on it. And afterwards, he came up to me and said, Shelomo, wow, that was amazing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That was amazing. I needed a drink to loosen up. You went straight into talking to people, didn't even look at the bar, and you seem like such a natural. And in my head, I'm thinking, that is not true, because I remember I needed alcohol to loosen up, and now I don't need alcohol to loosen up and talk to people.
That's amazing. And just to give you one more example, because for me, it wasn't really in the terms of social anxiety. It's terms of speech anxiety, where a lot of times I did want to grab that Four Loko bottle right before a speech when I was in undergrad. But like both of us said, start off small, or just force yourself. Yeah, the 3-second rule is a very practical rule that I think will help you out. And understand that change is going to be possible. It's all about the awareness to change. For you to bring up this question shows that you are willing to change, and that right there is a huge, huge part in this whole journey.
Yeah. Wow. That was a good conversation.
This was, man. We gotta have another one of these soon.
For sure. When we're growing, so when we grow a little bit further, we'll have another one.
100%. 100%. So Shelomo, where can everyone find you?
Well, if you YouTube my channel, Purpose Creates Impact. We're going to promote each other's channel, but I also have a public speaking checklist. I use everything I have learned in the past 5 years of being in Toastmasters, giving over 200 presentations, being in 15 leadership positions in the last 10 years. I have oversaw Florida region for my fraternity, and I've even been on the national board. I've given presentations. I compiled all of them into 10 tips you need to have for every single presentation. As soon as you go to my YouTube channel, go to one of my videos of Purpose Creates Impact, and you're going to see a checklist.
Wow. I'm going to download that myself.
Download it. It's really helpful. So for my followers, Armani, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on Twitter. It's at ArmaniTalks. You can also find me on my website, ArmaniTalks.com. Just a quick heads up, I'm currently working on a book called Level Up Mentality. And this book is going to give you a lot of practical tips to engineer your mindset towards confidence. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about today are going to be concepts covered into this book. It's going to be released next week. And in order to get more updates regarding this book, I recommend you sign up to my free email list right below. And in this email list, I will drop newsletters regarding how you can level up your soft skills, give you tips on confidence, and give you further updates on the Level Up Mentality.
And then I'll also include his email list in the description in the YouTube channel.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Yeah, with that being said, Shelomo,
Arman,
as usual, it's good talking to you, and I'm glad we were able to do this for the people.
All right. Peace.